I had the opportunity to sit down with Matai and Sim, a couple of young professionals in Wellington who went from thinking they were a long way from buying a home to going unconditional in just 2 weeks. We hope this conversation inspires you that buying a home might be within reach. Enjoy. We'll start with your names. So we've got...
Sim.
I'm Matai.
Awesome. And your age?
I am 31.
I'm almost 37 on Monday.
Nice. Oh, nice. You guys having a party?
Oh, maybe.
What do you do for work?
I work as a senior reporting analyst at Ministry of Housing and Urban Development.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I'm a service delivery manager at Student Job Search.
Cool. Yeah. Where did you guys grow up?
Well, I grew up in India. I was born and brought up in New Delhi, India, but I've moved places. I lived in Australia as well before moving to New Zealand.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm actually originally from the West Coast and moved when I was about 7 to Christchurch.
Yeah.
And then moved here in 2010. So yeah.
Wow, awesome. And what's your favourite hobby?
That's a tough question. I do enjoy cooking, and I think just being active. I just like being active and cooking.
Yeah.
I think since we've settled the house, anything that my favourite hobby probably just revolves around, I don't know, like getting outside in the garden or setting up the house. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing right now, which I enjoy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, guys. Yeah, that's great. Now, I want to take you back to, maybe it was 5 years ago, maybe it was 10 years ago. When was the first time that you thought about buying a house and you thought, oh, this could be something that we could do?
To be honest, if I say even 2 years ago, I never thought of buying a house. I was working, I just got out of uni, and I was just looking out for jobs, but I was working in all these odd jobs and I never thought I'd be able to get a house. But again, it's just once I started working properly, then we both chatted about having a house, because a lot of our friends were getting into house ownership. That's, I think, when we started thinking about it, but again, we were nowhere near.
Yeah, I guess it's always an aspiration that I've had. I grew up, my mum raised 5 kids by herself, and for the majority of that time she rented, and fast forward now to the majority of us own homes, and that all comes down to her really pushing and motivating us to get into home ownership. So it's something I've always kind of dreamed of or wanted to do.
Yeah, right. So you mentioned, that's awesome. You talked about your mum. Is home ownership for both of you something that anyone in your family embodied for you? You talked about them encouraging you to do it, but is that something that has run in the family for a long time?
Yes, my father, I always owned a house, and he was like, you need to own a house. And he said he'll help if I really need to. But yeah, I was always brought up with the mind that we won't be renting all alive. But
so my grandparents owned a home, and my mum owned a home when she was married, but that all kind of ended. Mm-hmm. And then my mum had to rent because she couldn't obviously afford to buy with 5 kids. So not really, but my brothers and sisters, the majority of them own homes now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about, it wasn't even 2 years ago that you thought, oh yeah, this could happen for us. Do you remember the first time you picked up the phone and you called a bank or a broker? And what was that first, kind of interaction like, where they're asking you for bank statements and things? And yeah, do you want to bring us back to that moment?
Yeah, I guess because our friends had recently purchased a property in Lower Hutt, a new build, they were kind of encouraging us, and I think that sparked the idea of buying for me and Sim. And they suggested a broker that we should look at. So obviously we saw the development, loved it, and got in touch with you guys, and then kind of just started the process of working with a broker then. It was a little bit daunting, having someone look through all your bank statements, doing a credit check on you, asking you all these questions, filling out a lot of information around what your expenses are. So that was a little bit daunting, but it was quite surprising to me that they just took that whole process over, and a lot of the stress that goes along with that. You give them everything and they go away and do most of the work for you. Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like you've got someone on your team who's out to bat for you, and especially a good broker that's working with multiple banks, right? You get that sense like they're finding you the best deal, and they're free usually, you know?
Yeah.
Do you remember you had everything applied, and do you remember, you know, what was the biggest kind of highlight for you on that journey? Was it getting your, you know, kind of getting the green light from your broker, even if it wasn't a pre-approval of sorts? Was it putting in your offer? Like, what was the biggest highlight? Or was it just moving in?
I think like just settling on like the settlement day was the highlight. I mean, we were quite excited, and when we got the call from from the lawyers that everything has been done, we were just like, we don't know what to do. We were like, it was overwhelming, definitely, but it was like really exciting. Our brains were like, now what?
I remember when we got the confirmation that it settled, we kind of, because we only lived 5 minutes down the road, we just drove here, came and just stood inside, and it just felt really odd, like we couldn't believe that this had happened. But yeah, I think as well, one of the highlights for me was probably with the whole pre-approval process with the bank, because you question a lot how you spend your money, and you feel like you're getting judged on it, and you kind of stress a little bit and worry that this big bank is looking through all your history. And you kind of sometimes always feel like it's the way that your finances are maybe aren't the best, but when you get that tick and there's no questions around it, and beforehand me and Sim had done some work on cleaning up our expenses and paying off some bills that we had, to get that green tick was really like such a relief and such a great feeling.
But I think also when we first got in contact with our broker, he did give us like a little bit of confirmation that we will be fine. Looking at our bank statements, looking at our expenses, looking at our debt as well, because we barely had any, and we were kind of focused on like just saving for the rest of the year. So he kind of gave us the green light that okay, the banks will be fine, but you might have to do this. So I think that kind of made us a little bit more lightheaded in terms of like, you know, we should be fine.
Yeah, and the fact that you bought so far before settlement meant pre-approval meant nothing really. You know, like they could give you the confidence, but at the same time, you know, you kind of had to just stay on the path and stay consistent and make sure you keep your jobs and things like that. There's still a huge amount of hesitation that we're seeing from first-home buyers buying off the plans, and you know, fair enough. But if there was something that you know, a piece of advice that you could maybe give your younger self, or even someone watching this right now, if they're considering buying now and settling in say 12 months' time, what would it be?
I think it's really important to do your due diligence, and part of that is getting a really great team around you. So get a lawyer that you feel really confident with, comfortable with, and build up a relationship with them, as well as a broker. Talk to your friends and family, especially ones that have purchased. A lot of the time when you're going through this process, your friends don't really talk about it, or they get there and settle and then they forget everything that they've gone through over the past year or however long it's been. So talk to them, talk to your family. You really want to get a really great support or a group of people around you to help you support you through the process. I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I'd give. So make sure that you're getting your pre-approval, getting evaluation done, getting your lawyer to go through and explain the contract and sit down with you, and so that you understand everything in there, what you're signing up for as well.
Yeah, awesome. That's a really good piece of advice. I think people start to build their team after they've fallen in love with a townhouse, and then all of a sudden, you're getting calls from agents, and the pressure's on. There's only 2 left, and you want to be prepared so that you can, especially I think in the market we're seeing right now. If you look at the last 100 years, moves in cycles. And what we're seeing now is we're coming out of a time of the market being at the bottom and having 600 listings in Lower Hutt, for example. And now we're creeping, the demand's creeping back up. People are realizing, there's not many completed townhouses. I'm going to have to start to consider, to buy off the plans, which is what you guys did. Now that's cool. Can you think of the biggest myth that you believed about the whole process? Something you just thought was true and you found out wasn't the case?
We thought the bank's gonna look at your credit history, and they might look at the credit history for the past 5-10 years, and they might see how many credit cards you had, how many, how much had you borrowed and stuff like that. I think they don't look that far. I think till the time you are paying off your bills well, till the time you save money. I think save money to have for other expenses and stuff like that. I think they should be fine. I think that was...
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me was thinking we needed a 20% deposit, and not realizing that we were in a position to buy straight away, based on our incomes, and based on the savings that we had, and our expenses and debt. We always thought that it was a 5-10 year away plan, whereas we didn't realize we were in the position to jump on right away. And part of our deposit we used was KiwiSaver, which was really surprising to me, because from talking to my friends and stuff, they said that we couldn't use that, and so I was pretty surprised that we could put that down to secure the property. So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, that's cool. That's definitely a big kind of misunderstood part of this, the KiwiSaver program, is that you can use that for a deposit. I'm just kind of having flashes now of that first viewing we did, and I remember we won't obviously go into your contract or anything. We definitely won't do that. But I just remember there was a point in which we were looking over a contract just as a draft agreement to be like, hey, this is kind of what you can expect. And there were a few things that you asked, like, could we do this or could we do that? And I remember I got on the phone with our business manager and put him on speaker, and we just had this kind of cool moment where you were able to ask these questions about, is this negotiable? Is this negotiable? So is there anything that any piece of advice you kind of give to people when they're at that stage of the process where they're really negotiating a contract, that you could give to them to help them out with that?
The worst thing that they would say is no, right? So I think don't be afraid to ask questions. If you have anything in your mind going, just talk to them, and I'm sure they're there to help you purchase your first home.
Yeah, I guess the same thing is to ask questions. Don't be afraid to. With my experience with you, it wasn't scary for us because we felt like we built up a relationship with you and we could ask you anything. And I remember texting you multiple different questions, and getting on the phone and chatting with you as well. So yeah, I think feeling confident enough to ask questions about the contract, what you're signing up for, and also going back to your lawyer and asking any questions, because you only have that one chance before you sign on the dotted line. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome, guys. Cool. I might just ask two more questions. If you had a magic wand and you could take away the biggest frustration or the biggest headache of the whole process, all the way from approaching your broker for the first time to now being post-settlement and kind of working out some other things, what would it be?
Not really waiting.
I think waiting. I would say waiting for the property, because we waited for like 16 to 18 months, and we were passing through the development every day. We're like, okay, like we can see the progress, but we just kind of were a little bit.
So you've settled on your house, you've moved in. Was it all worth it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think all that, not going to cafes, not going for trips with friends, restricting our budget, I think it's all worth it, definitely now.
Yeah, I guess all the sacrifices that we made to save and, each pay put that little bit of money away. And then when we've settled and got in there and we're standing there, all those sacrifices definitely were worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, so speaking of sacrifices, forget that. Now it's time to celebrate. Have you had a chance to have people around at the house or buy a new couch or anything like that?
Yeah, we had drinks with a few friends a couple of times, and they're loving the house. We both have families coming over sometime this year to stay with us. So yeah.
And we've been to all the shops and probably been to Bunnings about 20 times. And I think we need to stop spending money.
No,
but it's been nice to be able to have some money there to spend and not think so much about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. That's so funny because I own a kind of an older home and I'm at Bunnings pretty much every weekend. And that's probably the first time I've heard someone say that, Bunnings does not discriminate between a new home and an old home. You are going to need...
you need all the hooks. And...
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate having you here. And it was really an honour just to hear your story and have you guys with us. I know that a lot of people are going to be listening to this right now and be picking up all these tips and tricks. But the main thing is just have a little bit of hope. If you're feeling like you're going through the storm at the moment or whatever it is, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it sounds like it was all worth it.
Yeah.
Thank you
for having us.
Yeah.